Welcome to the Spotlight On video focusing on Create, Receipt and Refund Batch. This functionality is provided in two of our modules, EFT processing, as it facilitates increased efficiencies when processing direct debits from customers and refunds to customers, and inter-entity transactions, as it facilitates increased efficiencies with processing cash management between intercompany debtors and intercompany creditors. My name's Anne from Orchid Systems. Create, Receipt and Refund Batch provides functionality to create an AR receipt batch. It allows you to flexibly select which invoices to apply the receipt to and creates the receipt batch. You can also create a refund batch. In this case, it allows you to flexibly choose which payments to be refunded, payments or credit notes, and then creates a refund batch. You can also use this process to create a $0 value receipt batch, which allows you to apply or match payments and credit notes which have not yet been applied to invoices and apply them to those invoices. Looking at the functionality to create a receipt batch, the way it works is it allows you flexible criteria to select invoices and other accounts receivable documents, and then create a receipt batch with the receipt being applied to those invoices and other documents. And this is useful because it saves you time in entering receipts, and receipts can be created automatically and sent via EFT processing to your bank for direct debit instructions. And it's well suited for recurring invoices or intercompany invoices where you have a batch of invoices which you know you will always get receipts for, so it saves you time in entering those receipts. For example, subscriptions, memberships, or lease payments. Create, Receipt and Refund Batch can be run from the EFT Processing Transactions menu or from the Inter-Entity Transactions Periodic Processing menu. It depends which module you own. When you run Create, Receipt, Refund Batch, you select the template for the transactions that you want to create. When I select my direct debit template, it defaults which bank I want to create the receipts against, what type of transactions that I want to generate, which is a receipt, and my selection criteria on when to include customers, whether or not we want a single receipt per national account or per customer, and whether or not we want one receipt per invoice or one receipt applied to multiple invoices. And our required criteria defaults from the template code as well. You can select the customers based on a customer number range, what account set they belong to, what their balance is, their terms code, optional fields of the customer, their price list, or their customer group code. The group code is good for intercompany customers, as they typically belong to a group or account set. Or you can select which documents that you're going to apply a receipt to based on the document date, the document balance, or optional fields on the document or terms codes. And in my case, any invoices that I have previously created using my invoice terms code of EFT Direct Debit, these are the ones that are going to be available for selection when I run Create Receipt Batch. If required, I can exclude specific customers and documents. So if I didn't want to create a receipt batch for customer 1100, for example, or customer 1100 and a specific document, for some reason I know I don't want to auto-create a receipt for that invoice. And in creating the receipt batch, you can also include or exclude credit notes, prepayments, unapplied cash, debit notes, and interest invoices too. But in my case, I'm just going to select all invoices with an EFT DD terms code and apply the receipt to that. And the receipt batch is created for the appropriate customers and applying the payment to the outstanding invoices. And this batch could have been auto-posted if I had wanted to. We have just seen Create Receipt Batch, selecting all invoices with a specific terms code, EFT-DD, and creating a receipt batch with the receipts applied to those invoices. And we've seen how that would save time in manually keying those receipts. And then that receipt batch can be used by EFT processing to send our bank the direct debit instruction, or it could be used for intercompany processing, and a payment could be automatically created in my target company to match these receipts. And it's well suited for recurring invoices like subscriptions, memberships, lease payments, and intercompany balances. We're now going to have a look at creating a refund batch to automate the process of refunding customers. The way Create Refund Batch works is to select any prepayments or credit notes, so any credit balances which have not been applied to invoices, and then create a refund batch to that value. This saves time in entering the refunds manually, and the refunds can then be used by EFT processing to send your bank a payment instruction. When you want to create a refund batch, you can either use the EFT Transactions Create Receipt Refund Batch, it is the same option we saw previously, or you can use the Inter-Entity Transactions Periodic Processing Create Receipt Refund Batch. This time we'll select a refund receipt selection code, and the receipt selection code has pre-selected the type of transaction is a refund and defaulted the bank that we want to use. If the customer is not defined in EFT customers, we're going to skip and continue. It's irrelevant what we choose on the criteria tab because it's really the documents that we want to include. And in our case, we're going to include credit notes and unapplied cash for refund. But you could just do it on one or other of the type of transactions if you wanted to. And just like with the receipt batch, I could exclude some customers if I wanted to. The refund batch is created accordingly. With the refund applied to the appropriate transactions. We have just seen how you can use Create Receipt Refund Batch to select prepayments and credit notes, and based on the total, create a refund batch with the refund applied to the selected credits. This saves time in manually entering refunds, and the refunds can be used by EFT processing to send a payment instruction to the bank to refund your customer. We're now going to look at using Create Receipt Refund Batch to match documents. How it works is it allows you to select invoices and credit notes which are unapplied and other accounts receivable documents which are unapplied, and apply them together based on multiple criteria, including optional fields. It creates a zero-value receipt batch with the documents applied to each other. This saves time in manually applying documents, and it's well suited for users who have lots of invoices and credit notes which are entered unapplied to the associated transactions. To demonstrate using Create Receipt Refund Batch to apply documents, I'm going to look at my intercompany customer 9992, where I have a number of invoices which have a balance and an unapplied credit which also has a balance. And I'm going to use Create Receipt Batch to offset the unapplied credit of $7,000 to the outstanding invoices. Whether I use the Create Receipt Refund Batch in EFT or in inter-entity transactions, it's the same functionality. And I'm going to use my selection code of apply, which creates a receipt zero value match document batch. I'm selecting all my customers, all my documents that are in the account set intercompany. So my intercompany account set, I'm going to select all customers in the intercompany account set and apply all the documents. I'm including unapplied credits and credit notes. It's created a receipt batch number 82. And it's created a $0 receipt and applied my unapplied credit of $7,000 to all the outstanding invoices, oldest first, leaving a balance of 718. So when we go ahead and post this, and rerun the transaction report, we can see we're left with the 708 outstanding on the latest invoice. We have seen how we can create a zero-value receipt batch to match documents against each other in our selection range. And by doing this, we save time in manually applying the documents, and it's well suited for customers who have a lot of invoices and credit notes which are unapplied, for example, in your intercompany customers and vendors. Sitting behind the Create Receipt and Refund batch is the receipt refund selection codes. So you can preset the selection criteria for the different transactions that you want to create. The criteria can be based on the customer's attributes, for example, the balance or the terms codes, billing cycle, interest profile, price group, account set, and optional fields. Or it could be based on the invoice attributes, the amount due, the due date, the invoice date, the terms code of the individual invoice, payment code, or invoice header optional fields. And you can select which documents that you want to include, whether you want your refunds, for example, to be based just on credit notes or credit notes and prepayments, or in the calculation and application of a receipt to invoices, do you want to include other unapplied cash documents or credit notes and interest invoices, etc. And you can also exclude specific customers and specific invoices if required. Both in EFT processing and in inter-entity transactions, in the setup area, you can create your receipt refund selection codes. For example, my Apply Document Selection code creates a receipt zero value matched batch. I specify the bank I need, my EFT processing rules, the criteria in selecting the documents, which documents you want to include, and any exclusions. Similarly, for my direct debit batch, I'm creating a receipt. This time I am working with EFT customers, so if the customer is not defined in EFT, I want to create an error. Specify my criteria, in this case, all invoices with the terms code EFT-DD. And I'm not including credit notes or other documents in this calculation, it's just invoices. And for my refunds, I specify my bank and the criteria and what documents you want to include. In my case, I'm doing refunds based on credit notes and cash receipts, unapplied cash receipts. We've just seen how you can use receipt refund selection codes to preset the way you want to create your 3 different batches, your receipt batch, your refund batch, or your zero value receipt batch for applying documents. In summary, we've seen how to create a receipt batch, how to create a refund batch, and how to create a matched document receipt batch using the Create Receipt Refund Batch and using our selection codes to predefine our selection criteria. Thank you for viewing this video. For more information on EFT processing and inter-entity transactions or any other Orchid product, please go to www.orchid.systems.